Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the January 20th, 2026 City Council meeting, the very first council meeting of the year 2026. Please note that all council members are present, with the exception of Mary Uloa, who has an excused absence. Our flag salute this evening will be led by Girl Scout Troop 5181, led by Brownie Liberty for Naka. Will you please stand? Ladies, would you come on out? Are you Liberty? Yes. You tell me when you're ready, okay? Or do they look ready? Everybody look ready? How about these people out here? They look ready? Okay, well, I'm going to give it to you then.
Please put your right hand over your heart and face the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You can tell them. You can be seated.
You can be seated.
Thank you very much, Liberty, and thank you, Brownie Troop. That was outstanding. We appreciated it. Big round of applause, folks. Okay, I am pleased to announce our two businesses of the month for January 2026. Our first business of the month is committed to providing the best IT service to our community and beyond. For the month of January 2026, I would like to congratulate Vertical IT Solutions as one of our businesses of the month. Big round of applause for them. Will the representative from the business, CEO Cody Bakos, please join me up front? A little bit about their business. Vertical IT Solutions has been in business in Chino for just over 10 years and has always remained committed to making IT accessible and understandable. They are proud to provide friendly and knowledgeable service to their customers, people like me who really don't understand a whole lot of IT. The team at Vertical IT is committed to giving back to our community through service, education, and support. They host free cybersecurity workshops to help residents and local businesses protect themselves from online threats, a valued service right here in our city. In addition to supporting the community, Vertical IT also supports their team members if they fall on hard times through financial assistance, flexible schedules, and hands-on support. Wow, that's amazing. Wouldn't that be nice if everybody provided that? Vertical IT chose Chino for their place of business because their owner has lived in the Chino Valley for most of his life, noting that Chino is a great place to raise a family and build a business. Now, would that be you?
No, I'm the CEO, the owner, is president over there.
And you're sitting in the audio. Can you join us up here too as well, please? See, you thought you'd get away with it. Now, you grew up here in Chino? Did you go to high school here in Chino? Conquistador. And I won't ask you what year you graduated. Would I have known him? No? Okay. I was at Don Lugo for a while myself. 04, okay, well, no, you were there after I was gone. Anyway, join me in congratulating one of our January 2026 Business of the Month recipients, Vertical IT Solutions. Please accept this plaque as a symbol of our appreciation. There you go. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you. We're so honored just to do business here in Chino. Stephen, obviously, grown up most of his life here. I moved out here, 12 years ago. Been in and out, coming back here before then, and just recently bought a house here in Chino. So Chino is where we're rooted as a business, as a family, and we look forward to providing great IT service and cybersecurity services to the city at large and the rest of the cities around, and just growing here in the community and being able to be a service as we can. So thank you.
So what is your address here in town?
We are at 8354 Kimball Avenue. We're actually in the hangars over there off of Kimball. So we have some space over there.
In the airport.
Yep, in the airport.
All right. Well, very good. I'm going to put you on the spot now. I know you thought you were going to get away with it and just sit down there, but say a few words to us.
All right. I give all glory to God. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And honestly, like, we came from, my wife and I, living in a little condo in Chino Hills. The Lord told her to quit her job when we had our first baby, which meant we weren't going to make our bills, but we followed his leading. Vertical was very young at that age, and we were obedient, and he just started increasing us. We made our rent. We shortly hired our first, second, third, fourth employee, and we're just so thankful to what he's done in our lives, and the fact that we get to hire people and help them have a career or a short-term job, but our goal is career employees. That's really what we're trying to do. So, yeah, we're thankful to the city. I'm thankful that, I got to go to high school here. I love the crazy Christmas lights that we go and look at in December. Man, that one house in Park East, you guys know what I'm talking about? We just love the community, and we're so thankful to receive this award. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's get a photo. Thank you very much. Our next business of the month has been a welcome addition to the city of Chino's food scene, becoming a go-to dinner and drink spot for our residents. For the month of January 2026, I would like to congratulate Kenwood's Kitchen and Tap as one of our businesses of the month. Will the representative from the business, General Manager Matthew Mraz, please join me up front? While Kenwood's is relatively new to our community, it's already made a big impact. The restaurant offers American comfort food and is built on genuine hospitality. I can attest to that. I've been in there, and that place is amazing. A strong sense of community. They are a place where neighbors feel at home, and customers rave about their service, delicious food, and their drinks. The team at Kenwood's believes that local businesses play an important role in strengthening communities. They have partnered with local schools and first responders for donations, fundraisers, and in-restaurant events. They are also active participants in our community and participate in many of our long-standing local traditions. When asked why their business is located in Chino, the owner, Kenneth Kenwood, who's not here, is he? Ken's not here? Noted that Chino's strong community character and family-friendly environment made it a natural fit for their business. Mr. Kenwood also noted that opening in Chino felt like a natural progression, and the support from the community and guidance from the city staff helped bring their vision to life. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I know who Ken Kenwood is, and guess what? He's also a Chino native, and guess where he went to high school? Karen? Don Lugo High School. All these conquistadors. Join me in congratulating one of our January 2026 Business of the Month recipients, Kenwood's Kitchen and Tap. Please accept this plaque as a symbol of our appreciation. There you go. Would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, and thank you. If some of you have recognized me at the restaurant, you know I'm the GM, and I don't really have any issues talking to customers, but let's just say public speaking is not my cup of tea, so bear with me here. But the first thing I want to say is, can we get some love for Chino High School? I'm Chino High School, so I graduated in 2013. I've lived in Chino for about 25 years now, so, you know, the same thing, like Ken said, it was pretty natural when he had told me when we had our Costa Mesa location, hey, I'm thinking about opening up a restaurant in Chino. What do you think? And I said, let's do it. It'd be a gold mine. And I forget who I was talking to with earlier, but if we keep building in that preserve area, Mr. Kenwood might need a bigger restaurant. Let's just say that. So on behalf of the Kenwood family and myself, my entire team, we'd like to thank the community and all the neighbors in this great city to make Kenwood's Kitchen Tap so successful in just only the 2 years that we've been open. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Picture. Thank you very much. All right. City Manager Linda Wright, do we have any agenda additions or revisions?
No changes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Great, thank you very much. First informational, the external agency report for January 2026 is available in the agenda packet, as is the City Council Goal Workshop Meeting Summary. That's also available in your agenda packet. A couple of public announcements. The Lunar New Year celebration. First, I'd like to invite you all to Chino's first ever Lunar New Year celebration, happening on January 31st and February 1st on the City Hall lawn. Our celebration will feature a vibrant lineup of activities, cuisine, and performances honoring traditions from across Asia, including lion and dragon dances, acrobatic acts, and music and dance showcases ranging from traditional Chinese folk performances to K-pop. Forgive me, I'm not too sure what K-pop is, but I'm assuming everybody else does. Join the celebration and welcome the year of the horse with your community. For more information, visit cityofchino.org/events. And you might want to Google K-pop dance, whatever that might. Chris, do you know what K-pop is?
I do.
Okay, I kind of figured Chris would know what K-pop was. Doesn't know who Neil Diamond is, but he knows about K-pop.
Or Jack.
Yeah. Next, I'm excited to announce that our Euclid Avenue Bridge project is moving forward, and we want you to be part of the conversation. The project is now moving into environmental review, a key step that includes public scoping, technical analysis, and community input. We will be holding a public scoping meeting on this project on Tuesday, January 27th at 6 p.m. at the Park House located at 15871 Main Street in Chino down in the Preserve. We will also be holding a virtual meeting on Thursday, January 29th. Join the conversation and help us create a project that we can all be proud of. For more information about this project, including meeting details and interactive map, visit cityofchino.org/Euclid. And finally, I am pleased to invite you to the annual Run for Russ Memorial 5K, which is taking place on Saturday, February 7th. The Run for Russ honors the legacy of Chino police officer Russ Miller, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty by a drunk driver on February 1st, 2000. Registration is currently open, and all proceeds support the Chino Police Officers Foundation. All that money, folks, goes right back into this community for our kids, which aids the Chino community in times of need. For more information and to register, please visit runforruss.com. And I can tell you, I have been involved with this run since its inception. The first year, Karen, how many people did we have?
About 250.
about 250 people the first year, and now we're exceeding 1,100 people. This is an incredible run. It's family friendly. Get your folks out there, get your kids out there. You will not regret it. It's a great time, and your money goes to a worthwhile cause, folks. So please go to that. All right, this is a time and the place for the general public to address the city council about subjects that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Our first request to speak is Chaplain Ernesto Garcia from the Chino Valley Fire District, who will provide the invocation. All those who would like to join us, please do so.
Thank you, Kurt. Let's pray. Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. Lord, I thank you. I'm honored to pray here today, Lord, with everybody here, with our city leaders, with our residents, Lord, with everybody in this room, Lord. You feel the love, the warmth, the welcomeness throughout the room, Lord. I thank you for that, Lord. It shows what kind of city we live in, Lord. Lord, I ask you to just honor this city. Keep your hand upon it, Lord. Let it prosper and grow, Lord. And just be with us all right now, Lord. Let this meeting just be guided by your word and by your love. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ernie. All right, next item is consent calendar. Do any council members wish to have any consent calendar items pulled? Oh, seeing none.
Mayor Pro Tem, the additional speaker cards for public comments.
There is a request. Maureen Mendoza, are you in the audience tonight? Yeah. For public comment or for consent, to pull an item from consent.
Mayor
That's what
Pro
we're
Tem, we have public comment for just the general.
Okay.
There's a stack there. There's about 4.
About the consent?
No, the general public comment.
Okay, well, please forgive me. General comments. We are going to go to chamber updates with Zeb Wellborn. Come on up, Zeb.
Good evening. I just wanted to say, give some kind of updates. It's been a while since I've been able to hang out with you all at the city council meeting, so I want to share some of the things that have happened probably since the last time we've gotten together. One of the things that we've been working on with the chamber is creating a really strong entrepreneurial program for 2026. So we have at least 3 events a month that's going to be focused around entrepreneurship and developing entrepreneurs. We have this Innovation Council, which we started, which is going to be focusing on innovation to make sure that we're bringing innovation, we're bringing funding, we're bringing support for businesses here in the Chino Valley. So that's something we've developed. Tomorrow we have an event that's kind of like a hands-on AI, how to use AI to grow your business. We have our Chino Commercial Bank Mixer, which is happening on Thursday night, which is highly popular. So if you want to get a chance to go into a bank and have some beer served to you or some wine, you might want to go check out the Chino Commercial Bank Mixer on Thursday night. We're doing with Vertical Computers, we're doing an IT cybersecurity event that is happening very soon. We have some legislative policy updates we're working with your team on developing a program with. We've developed this Women's Council that is hosting women's related entrepreneurial events. And then our first major event is our Salute to Public Safety. We're on our police and fire departments, CIM, CIW, and the Chino Hills Police Department. So we have those are some of the major events that are coming up. I just wanted to thank you and your team as well, because we're working on a lot of initiatives together to help advance economic development in the city of Chino. So I want to thank you for your leadership in helping make those things happen. So we're doing a lot of ribbon cuttings in 2026 with local businesses that are opening up here in the area. I'm hoping you can join us. We're going to do some small business visits throughout the year to stop in, see how businesses are doing, and see how we can best support them. We're hosting a lot of events in Chino, business-related events. I think over the last 3 or 4 years, we have helped over 600 people find employment with local businesses. So we're helping our businesses grow, we're helping people find jobs, and that's substantially advancing the economic interests of this region, but also the city of Chino. And then I'll throw a plug for our leadership program, which several of you have been a part of. We come here and tour the facility, but we're in year 4 of our leadership program, which we've been doing for the last 4 years. It's what their community good project is going to be this year. So every year we encourage them to do a community goods project. Several of your team members out here in the audience are participating in that. We're going to be supporting the Chino Neighborhood House this year. So they're going to be working on raising funds to support the Chino Neighborhood House to do some great things for our community. And then lastly, I'll just highlight that, through all the work that we've done over the last few years, I think I took over the chamber about 7 years ago. We've seen a drastic increase in how that has played a role in helping build a stronger business community. So this last year, we were nominated for finalists for the second year in a row for Chamber of the Year for the whole country. So we're bringing in a lot of resources development for this area. So we're finalists. We didn't win, but we went to Philadelphia. It was a great event. We had an opportunity to showcase and share all of the things that we've been doing around workforce development, around leadership, around economic development, and around entrepreneurship. So we've created some really strong programming there to do great things for this community, and we've been recognized on a national stage. And I just wanted to share those things with you all, encourage you to stay involved as you have been with the chamber, and just thank you for your support and all that you guys do. Thank you, and have a great day.
Great. Thank you very much, Zeb. And the next public comment, Maureen Mendoza, not consent, a public comment.
This is written public comment for the records. Received the CPRA from the ARC on Maverick, animal ID number A004301. The report contains chronological inconsistent descriptives of the bite and an incorrect quarantine date. While the narrative vary, the only consistent facts are that the dog was on the couch and the individual approaching the dog's face tried to kiss the dog. The bite occurred on December 31st and the quarantine should have begun on that date. The report classifies the incident as a level 2 on the commonly used level 1 through 6 bite severity scale, which is generally considered amendable and for interventions and training. One of the adoption forms outlined Maverick's medical and behavioral history was not signed by an ARC employee, leaving it unclear whether it was ever reviewed with the adopter. Maverick is currently working with a trainer. Mind you, by the end of this month, I'll have spent over $2,000 on this dog for training. The trainer reports no signs of aggression, no history of growling, just that he is a goofball. I am paying for the training in good faith in hopes that Maverick's 30-day fostering period will be extended rather than him being euthanized as currently planned, which does not meet the criteria for euthanasia under the Hating Act. The ARC is only allowing me to foster Maverick for another 30 days, even though when I originally received him, the fostering period could have been longer. Limiting the foster period to 30 days does not provide adequate time to find a rescue willing to take him. I am urgently requesting the assistance of the Chino City Council and the city attorney to intervene on behalf of Maverick to ensure the ARC complies with the Hating Act and that he is not euthanated. My other written public records request is basically, my name is Mo Mendoza. I am a local animal advocate who believes deeply in transparency and public accountability. For that reason, I submit public record request acts to ensure that decisions affecting our community and its animals are made openly and responsibly. Since the transition from Inland Valley Humane Society to the temporary Animal Rescue Center of ARC, the public has repeatedly been told to give it time because the facility is new. I believe that position is fundamentally flawed. A shelter should not open unless it is properly built, properly funded, and fully equipped to meet the needs of the animals it serves. Staff should be provided the tools, resources, and staffing necessary to operate at the least as effective as the prior shelter, if not better. During the COVID-19 pandemic, spay and neuter services were widely unavailable. contributing to a sustained increase in animal intake across the region over the past 3 years. Rising contract costs during the period were not unexpected. They reflected increased demand, raising wages, and real operation pressures. These realities were foreseeable and should have been accounted for during the planning and implementation of the ARC. Instead, we are now operating on a temporary facility, ARC, that the director, Clint Thacker, acknowledged it cannot handle current intake levels while euthanation rates remain alarmingly high. And I mean alarming. I mean, it's high. Animals are paying the price for systematic failures that should have been addressed before the shelter ever opened. It is unethical that Maverick, a dog I foster who was adopted and then returned, is now facing euthanasia at ARC while I am actively advocating for transparency. Animals should never be used as punishment or collateral in response to advocacy for public accountability. There are clear, achievable solutions. The shelter must adequately staff, equipped, and funding funding to match current intake, or intake must be reduced through expanded rescue partnership and foster placement rather
I'm going
than
to need you to wrap it up,
euthanization. Spray and neutering across must be expended immediately through low-cost mobile services, particularly in high intake areas. Prevention is both humane and cost-effective. Transparency must be mandated, including regular public reporting on intake outcomes, euthanation rates, and capacity.
Mo, I'm going to need you to wrap it up, please.
Okay, it was past 5 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then my other letter that you got that basically is requesting an agenda item quarterly.
Okay, we're not
for-
at that point yet, so you can.
Okay.
We'll call you back up.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, although the comments are appreciated, it would not be advisable to respond to the extent that any specific active animal control cases are pending. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, the next public comments, Donna Marchese.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm going to speak on behalf of ARC tonight also. So tonight I'm here on behalf of ARC, and I want to tell you that my husband and I have been cleaning cat cages on Sunday mornings for the last few weeks. Maureen Mendoza from our group has been volunteering and fostering Maverick like you heard. I saw Maverick at Chino Cafe while Tom Fisher sang this Saturday. He was wonderful. He's just not, he's young. He's a little crazy. But I would like to encourage the council to have their family, friends, neighbors, and those constituents that weren't happy with Inland Valley come down and volunteer at ARC. They are understaffed. So ARC needs supplies like bedding, towels, treats, toys, Kongs and Busy Bones for the dogs, enrichment toys for stimulation, food, peanut butter, collars and leashes, new and used. We need to have several drop-off locations like City Hall, the police department, and substations. I think we have fire departments, senior centers, etc., to make it convenient for people to donate. I only see 3 places listed on the city's website. So, and when you do your opening statements, it'd be nice if every meeting you could say, by the way, they need, so that would help. I believe the citizens of Chino deserve to know how our tax dollars are being spent at ARC. I'd like to see a report periodically showing stray cats and dogs picked up, cats and dogs returned to their families, cats and dogs adopted, cats and dogs fostered, life-saving medical procedures performed, spay and neuters performed, community cat TNRs performed, wildlife rescues, animal cruelty cases, dog and cockfighting, which I know we have in this town, and the number of animals that are put down. We used to get a report like that from Inland Valley. They would send us out a flyer, and most of this was on that report. I haven't seen anything from ARC. When I first started attending the ARC meetings, Chairman Leone mentioned several times there wasn't transparency between his city and Inland Valley Humane Society. With that comment in mind, I would like to have the ARC meetings recorded so any of the citizens paying for this shelter can watch those meetings just like they can watch this meeting. I don't know if there's a reason why they're not recorded, if it's some kind of legal issue or not. If Ontario can't record the meetings, maybe we could have the meetings moved to a facility like this that could record. So I said, I think we need some transparency here, just like Mayor Leone wanted. So that's my first one. My second one's trash. We live in Chino. We have a rental in Upland. In Upland, we have Burtec, and I talked to Matt Ballantyne before he left, and I think this fell by the wayside. This waste management does not recycle styrofoam. Stop and think about all the styrofoam you use all the time. Your trays that your meat and your chicken come on, your to-go containers, your drinks, that packaging material. I bundle mine up and I take it up to Upland because Burtec recycles styrofoam. And you know what I just found out? They cleaned my trash cans, and my trash cans smell really good where waste management doesn't ever clean out anything. So I'd like to leave this information so that maybe, I don't know if you just had a renewal for trash or not, something to consider, maybe an extra $1 or $2 for us if they can recycle styrofoam, because there's a lot of it going in the trash. So that's it, and I'll leave this information for you guys to have.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
the information. All right, now we're going to go to consent. Do any council members wish to have any consent calendar items pulled? No? Any member of the public would like to come up? Marie Mendoza? Oh, for the consent item? For the consent item.
Under the consent item for the animal welfare codes, on section 10, the quarantine and confinement of dogs shown to have bitten a person, you guys have 12 days by law.
I'm sorry, what item is this going to
It's
be on?
10 days?
Item number 6 of the
Yes.
consent calendar. Go ahead.
Yes. It should reflect 10 days because it should align with the California law. So that's kind of an important component because you guys have 12 days. And trust me, I know all about dog bites now. And then section 4, impoundment, sale of unrendered animals. The dates, the times, it's confusing. It's confusing for the owners, and I know it's confusing for the staff because the staff have brought it to my attention that the holding time for each city under ARC is different, and it gets confusing, and then sometimes they say it can cause an animal to be unnecessary euthanized. So you might want to look at that. And then it's the same thing for section 15, reclaiming adoption and destruction of impounded dog. Though all those dates should really go and flow evenly throughout the thing. It looks like this has been cut and paste for years and years and nobody's caught on to that. So it just needs to flow better, and maybe if you guys can coordinate with the cities, because it has been brought to my attention by an ARC employee, I think actually 2 ARC employees, that it would help if the holding is the same time as every city. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Can I make a motion to pull this item and send it back to staff and check on those items before we bring it back?
Mayor Pro Tem, the changes that we're making here are very limited. The next phase of this process will be coordinating with all the cities and making sure that the ordinance is in sync. This change just takes out Inland Valley, and it changes the he to a more standardized language. There will be a second revision to our municipal code, which will be coming after we coordinate with every city, just as Ms. Mendoza says.
So we have those notes, we can take care of that at a
Yes,
later
and,
time.
well, I'd like to have your notes because I didn't get all of those, but yes, we will be doing that. That'll be the second phase. This is just a limited revision currently.
So having heard that, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll rescind my motion, thank you.
And if I may add, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm prepared to address the legal issue related to the timing for dog quarantines. So reading straight out of California law, it's Title 17 of the California Code of Regulations, Section 2606, that specifically says that at the discretion of the local health officer, any animal which bites or otherwise exposes a person shall be isolated in strict confinement in a place and manner approved by the local health officer and observed for at least 14 days, dogs and cats 10 days. So my interpretation is that 12 days meets the at least 10-day requirement. So although 10 days is stated, I believe the 12 days is within the authority provided under the Code of Regulations.
Great, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Okay, for the remainder of the consent, can I get a motion?
We're taking the entire consent, right?
Yes. I'll make the motion.
I'll make the second.
Motion by Councilmember Flores, seconded by Councilmember Comstock. Please vote electronically. And who are we waiting on? Chris?
You want to verbally,
Right again. What's that?
Councilmember Flores, if you want to verbally say.
Yes.
And the item passes 4 yes with the mayor absent. Okay. Going on to new business, item number 12, business license tax study and recommendations. Staff report by Linda Wright, City Manager, and Kim Sow, our Director of Finance, along with our consultant Eric Myers from HDL.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All members of the council, I'll get started while the rest of the speakers come up. As you're aware, we spoke about modernizing our different processes throughout the city at our goal-setting workshop. So one of the items that we've been looking at probably over the last 6 months is our business license fees and how can we modernize that process. You'll hear in the report today that the last time it was updated was 1987, so almost 40 years. So this is a three-pronged process. So one is we're looking at the manner in which our residents or our businesses in Chino can register for their business license. Currently, they can only do it in person by coming into City Hall. So we're looking at software options that will allow our businesses to register online for their first time. Also that then they can update or renew their license online. Next, we're going to look at compliance, looking at our businesses in town that maybe don't have a license or ones that might have a license year one, but then they don't renew for the second year or the third year. So having compliance, you'll also hear in the report today that there may be 500 businesses in town that actually don't have a license to do business in town. The third part of that is looking at the fees. And again, 40 years without looking at our fees is a long time. So about 6 months ago, maybe 4 to 6 months ago, we contracted with HDL to take a look at our business license structure and give us some recommendations on modernization. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim, who's going to then introduce our consultant, and we're going to walk through the recommendations. And what we're looking for the council today is look at the models, and then we're going to recommend one. We would like council input on that. And then we'd also like to ask the council if you'd like us to go forward and look at the feasibility of actually putting this on the November 2026 ballot, because it has to go to a vote of the people if we make any changes to our fees. Okay, Kim.
Thank you, Linda, for the introduction. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Tonight we have a presentation from Eric Myers, Director of Professional Services with HDL Companies, who has been working with our staff on a comprehensive review of the city's current business license tax structure. Eric will provide an overview of the study, including how Chino compares to our neighboring cities, and providing potential tax models available for the City Council to consider an update. And his presentation will also include staff's recommendation of the model. With that, I would like to welcome Eric Myers to present the study.
Good evening. The study that we undertook is really organized around three key questions. What is the current business license tax? And can you hear me okay? Is that clear enough? Okay. What is the current business license tax structure producing for the city right now? That's number one. Where are you now? Number two is, how does that compare in this area of the state? And then number three is, in order to, if you were looking at modernizing, addressing maybe some equity items, what would that potentially look like? What are some options for that? And so we're going to address that kind of in that order as we go through. It's sometimes helpful, just as a refresher, that the business license tax is broader than the sales tax, right? It's not based on selling activity. It's based on taxable activity, which currently is defined, we'll call it roughly as engaging in a trade, profession, or occupation, carrying on a business, let's say. And what we want to understand is how much of that taxable activity is occurring in the city. We call that the measure. How are we going to measure how much is happening? The rate that will then be applied to what we've measured. And then in some cases, as you'll see a little bit later in the presentation, where you've got a variable gross receipt, what kind of business? The classification matters quite a bit. Right? So where is the city now in terms of its tax structure? Well, here's a 5-year business license tax revenue trend based on state-reported revenues. It's had a little bit of fluctuation, but relatively stable over the time period that we surveyed. Okay? Not unusual for that time period. How many businesses do you have right now, and what's their mix? Well, you're in the about 4,600 range, and the mix is about a third, 2/3, and almost 3,000 are internal businesses or inside businesses. The others are outside businesses that are coming in, and they're registered to do business here in the city. This roughly breaks down by rate type where the number of businesses are, what the concentration of businesses is. As you can see, construction and then in the sales are the two largest far and away, followed by services. And then you've got some medical as well. With a total businesses right now of about 4,656. And as was mentioned, there is likely, given your size, we would just estimate that there's probably 10 to 15% of businesses that may be operating in the city that are not currently registered and paying their taxes. That, by the way, is not unusual and is something that I think this, looking at modernizing the tax, also helps address as part of an overall strategy. Briefly, what we looked at here is really making it prettier, what we just showed you. This is where your revenue is coming from based on the number of businesses, and it tracks relatively closely to the count, the business count that you saw. You will notice that the construction is not represented as some of the larger, even though it's a larger number of businesses. And that has to do with the flat fee that's charged to the construction. So it doesn't generate the kind of revenue in line with the number of businesses. Here we took a look at your top 100 businesses in the city. And we wanted to look at a couple of things. What we're trying to show here is how much of the inputs, let's say that's whether that's employees or gross receipts that are reported by these businesses, and how much are they contributing to your revenue. You can see in the middle pie chart here that the top 100 businesses report about 65% of the gross receipts that are reported citywide for this tax. But if you look to the right, you'll see that those same businesses only account for about 12.5% of the revenue. And that has to do with the cap structure that's currently part of the business license tax. So your largest businesses, although they are reporting the most business activity, are paying a fairly small percentage. So right now, where's the city overall? It's got an older code. I think we're talking close to 30, 40 years, if I'm not mistaken, since the last major revision. In fact, I think, 1987 roughly. So
I'm sorry, did I hear you correctly? 1987?
that is correct. I believe that was a good year for one of the high schools around here. So, so it's been a while since this business license tax has been modernized and looked at. And it's producing a nice flat revenue stream, but bottom line is it looks like there's some opportunities to modernize and maybe address some questions around equity, and we're going to dive into that a little bit here in just a moment. What we'll look at next is, okay, well, that's what the city of Chino is doing. How does that compare to other jurisdictions? So this chart, or table rather, looks at a number of other cities. There's actually two of them that I'll kind of reference here, 2 pages in the presentation. Some of them are very close in proximity. Others we chose because they were interesting comparisons. We thought either on population or business count or business type or tax basis, excuse me. What we've done is we've sorted by the column labeled revenue per capita. And that is really just the business tax revenue divided by the population count, so that you can kind of compare the productivity of the tax regardless of the population's size, right? And as you can see on this first page, Chino's tax is the lowest producing on a per capita basis of all of the groups. And that's also true on this page of the revenue per business as well. On the second page, the same analysis continues. Here you'll see that there are 3 cities that are lower. Redlands is one on a per capita basis, although on a revenue per business basis, it's actually higher than the city of Chino. And then Eastvale and Chino Hills, and I'll come to a slide here in a moment, but just as a bit of a preview, part of the reason for that with Eastvale and Chino Hills is that they're really a regulatory structure and not a tax or revenue generating structure. And so useful because they're close by here and useful for the council to look at, not as useful to compare the productivity because that's not the point of their structure. Just as an aside, this is again a 5-year trend for these key comparison cities. You can see the dip around COVID there for most of these cities. What you'll see roughly is the flat-ish recovery in the city of Chino in terms of the revenues. Again, why? Probably the cap structure, right? As businesses rebounded coming out of that very trying period, the cap limits the amount of that recovery being reflected here. As promised, here is the slide on some of the differences. So revenue generating, or a tax, essentially is what it says. Its purpose is there to raise revenues so that the city can perform the services for its residents, okay? And it goes to the general fund and supports a wide range of public services. So in our comparison set, the cities that you see listed there, Chino, El Monte, Hesperia, for example, these are all revenue-generating jurisdictions. However, Chino Hills and Eastvale have a regulatory fee. And a regulatory fee is only meant to cover the costs of regulating a specific activity. It is not meant to be revenue-generating. And so when you look at those cities, it's just useful to keep that in mind. Again, good information to have them in the comparison, but they're not going to show you much in the way of revenue. We then went and did a little bit deeper dive on a handful of cities to give a little bit more information about how the city of Chino's tax structure stacks up against these other jurisdictions. So, those jurisdictions are Ontario, Upland, and West Covina that we chose for a more detailed analysis. What we're showing here is a group of hypothetical businesses, which is why we call it a business scenario. These are not actual businesses, and it's important for me to emphasize that. There's confidentiality rules around business tax reporting. And so these are hypothetical businesses that we've taken that we thought might be helpful reference points to see if you had a business like this, what would they be paying in Chino right now? What would they be paying in Ontario right now, or Upland or West Covina? And that's essentially what this table shows, right? So for example, a sit-down restaurant, let's say that was grossing 2.2 million with 28 employees in Chino right now would be paying $692 per year as a business license tax. Ontario, they'd be paying $930. Upland, $864, which is their cap. That's an important point for Upland, right, is they've got a cap essentially built in as well. And then West Covina, they'd be paying about $737. So you can see, reading from left to right, that's roughly how these businesses would compare. A regional hospital, for example, right now, these are numbers. You might think, well, Eric, did you fall off the wagon or something and make up this $100 million? When you look in the Southern California region for-profit hospitals, $100 million is in the reasonable range for gross receipts for regional hospitals. And what do they pay right now in Chino? Less than $8,000. Ontario, they'd be about $55,000. Upland, $5,000, and West Covina, just a little bit shy of $14,000. This slide is just presented for information purposes. It is the actual rates that we use to calculate those amounts from each of the cities. So how does the city stack up right now? In its current structure, it's pretty low in the comparisons in terms of the productivity and in terms of the rates that are actually charged. It is a fairly low set of rates at the moment. So now we're going to switch to, well, okay, what could we change to? What are some options here that would modernize and address some of the issues with the existing structure, the tax structure? The first, very creatively named, single gross receipts rate models. And as the name implies, essentially what we would be taxing is gross receipts, which you already do to a certain extent, but it would be across the board, every business, based on gross receipts. There'd be a small minimum tax or fee and one gross receipts rate for all businesses. Okay? It's easy for everybody to understand what they're going to get charged. It would boost revenue, and because it's the same rate for all without a cap, you get more equitability, right? Whenever you have a cap, you pretty much by definition have a regressive tax structure. Okay? What might that look like? Well, what we've got here are 3 different flavors of that model. The first would be that for the first $25,000 in gross receipts, there'd be a flat $25. So micro businesses, businesses coming in from outside doing small jobs would still remain pretty business friendly and easy to report on. And then above that first $25,000, there would be a 45 cent per $1,000 of gross receipts, right? So just to reflect on that, if you turn that into, it's fractions of a penny for every dollar that's earned, right? This is less, it's a very low tax rate. It's about the rate, that's one of the higher rates that Ontario charges, but it is a low rate for a modern tax structure. So 45 cents per $1,000. As you can see, what our model says here is that roughly at 45 cents per $1,000, the city's business license revenue could increase to around $3.6 million, which would be about a $2.5 million increase to the general fund revenue for the city. Option number 2 is 70 cents per $1,000. That option would put you at about a $4.5 million increase in revenue to the general fund. And then option number 3 at $1.50 per $1,000 for every business would be at about 10.6 million in additional revenue. Okay. The second set of models here is the variable gross receipt models. As the name implies, the gross receipt itself is variable, meaning we charge a different rate for different basic categories of businesses. It simplifies the number of categories down to 5. It does boost revenue as well, and is more equitable in the sense that it can account for some of the differences across business activity types. And again, you have the very low base rate for micro enterprises. What would that look like? So I'll read just across here for a second. A contractor, the way to interpret this, a contractor would pay $1 per $1,000 on gross receipts, right? General retail would be 60 cents per $1,000 on gross receipts. Property rental would be $1.50 per $1,000 on gross receipts, and so forth as you see. Okay? What would that likely produce, just given the model? And again, these are estimates, but do our best to build these off some decent assumptions. You've got about 1,500 contractors. We estimate that about 272 million in gross receipts is flowing through those businesses. Their current taxes would total 93,000, and the variable gross receipts estimated revenue would be 127. And so you can see here what the different business types would contribute to the increase of about 4.8 million in revenue to the city. Okay? And just in case it needs clarification, the exempt are those businesses that are exempt by law from paying the business license tax at all. So those are recorded there. There's about 41 right now in the city, and they would contribute nothing here because they are exempt from the tax. So we come back to these business scenarios and look at, given the business scenarios and the same inputs that we were looking at before, what would those businesses pay in Chino currently? You can see that here in sort of the middle column that's bolded. And then what would the different models charge? So single gross receipts, option 1, 2, and 3. Again, those are the 45-cent, the 70-cent, and the $1.50. And then the variable gross receipts. Just as a point of clarification, the variable gross receipts is going to be less than the option 3, okay? Because you've got the variable rates. And option 3 has everybody at $1.50, and you've got lower rates throughout in variable gross receipts, and so it's less as a total. And then you can compare that on different line items to Ontario, Upland, and West Covina. And you can see that the single gross receipts option 1 is a little bit lower than Ontario at that 45 cents total, but the other models would put you right up there. Although when we look at the broader modern rate structures, you've got neighbors not too far away. I guess I wouldn't call them neighbors, but cities that have updated their codes recently, looking forward, and you see rates that are closer to the $1 and $1.50 per thousand. And with that, I will pause for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address City Council on this item? Stubby?
Good evening, Council. So it appears, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I can't turn and look at you, that these assumptions are based upon our current revenues. And as I have discussed with Linda in the past, we really don't know what our current revenues would be if all of the businesses in Chino actually had a business license. Because there are, it's been estimated, as many as half of them do not. So I think that should be the starting point. You need to correct the operational and administrative side so that we know what our actual revenue base is. That's one statement. The other one is that you have to be careful. When you raise the tax rate for people to do business, you affect our economic growth, which is an issue here in Chino. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but one of the reasons that businesses look for cities that have caps on their business license tax rate is because they can spend more money on expansion and do more business. And in general, that benefits the city in many other ways through other taxations and through employee and city relationships. So please consider those items. This study seems to be pretty thorough, but I question the basis should be corrected first before the study is applied, if that makes sense. One last thing. Please, and I've brought this up several times in the past, these types of graphics may look good on your screen, but they're practically illegible for the audience. They need to be a larger format. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on this item? Well, seeing none, I'm going to open it up to council comments. Council comments? No? Seeing none. Okay, well, I'd like to open it up for a motion.
Well, I guess before we go there, forgive me, Mayor Pro Tem. So if staff can address that, I know that was brought up during my presentation, right? This idea of the compliance issue. Where are we at with that? What's the direction there? There's, right, the concern was brought up, again, with not every business in town actually having their business licenses. There is the concern of, for those who are compliant, right, we send this out to the, as a vote to the people. And in the scenario where they do pass this, people who currently are compliant will be most affected compared to those who don't have licenses right now. So in terms of this compliance issue or enforcement issue, what's the plan there and what are we doing?
We are currently working on compliance as well, in addition to this study. So staff is researching businesses that are not registered, and we're also going to businesses to see who have not been registered, and we're notifying them that they have about 30 days to get up to speed with applying for a license. And we also note that the city does not have online registration. So we are currently looking at software systems for business license tax that would allow businesses to remotely apply for business license tax to give them more accessibility to be more compliant with our code. Sometimes because of that inaccessibility, one could just say, well, it's really hard to apply, and I can't make it to the city hall to apply for this. So they just don't. So we're working on that aspect as well to give them that easy accessibility to be compliant.
2 follow-up questions to that. Number one, do we have just ballpark figures of how much revenue is lost from these businesses who don't have their licenses right now? And number two, I guess this may be more for Mr. Myers. From your experience, do most cities have businesses who who have businesses that don't have their business licenses, right? Because my guess is that the city of Chino is probably not the only city that has businesses that don't have their. So in all fairness, some of these figures that you gave us, we are probably comparing them to cities who also have businesses that, right, don't have 100% of their businesses with current up-to-date licenses.
Absolutely, council member. It is not unusual. Our company does outsourced compliance work, and so I'm speaking from experience here. It's not unusual to find in the neighborhood of 8 to 10% of your current base not in compliance. Why? They don't know, right? We generally don't find it's an intentional sort of scofflaw. It's just didn't happen. They've got other things to worry about. But it is not uncommon to find around that level. And as you've heard tonight, I mean, we would estimate probably somewhere in the 450, 500 range of businesses. I would note, my mental math isn't quick enough to do that for you on the fly, but I would note that because of the cap, right, well, 2 things. One, because of the cap, the amount of revenue that would be garnered is lower, and the equity still needs to be addressed, right? If you're a larger business that hasn't registered, you're still going to have the cap, and the role of the cap will impact both revenue and equity. And I would also note that just because of the length of time that it takes to get a ballot measure moved and planned and polled and all those things, moving on a study like this in parallel, as staff is doing with compliance efforts, makes a lot of sense timing-wise. Compliance can move pretty quickly, but the wheels of a ballot measure turn pretty slowly.
So piggybacking off of that, if, for example, we decide to move forward and do more of a comprehensive study, by when do we have to know whether or not this is something we want to put in the ballot?
Well, the absolute deadline is 88 days before the election, but the county registrar's office generally wants it well before that, so it ends up being late July, early August.
And then when will we know or have a better idea? Because are we going to put this to a ballot vote with just a general idea of how we're going to move forward? Or are we going to be specific with specific points on what exactly is going to be raised, who's exactly is going to be taxed? Are we going to have more transparency than, let's say, the state of California?
It would have, any ballot measure would have to be very specific about what the tax rate is, how it applies to various businesses, and actually attach an ordinance that details all of that. The ballot question is relatively short, but there's a reference to the draft ordinance.
Now, I know a lot of the community complains about our warehouses, especially since our warehouses generally do not pay any type of sales tax or generate really any money for the city. But I know in this ordinance, there's a possibility of looking at a way so that these people that are utilizing heavy trucks that are beating up our roads would be able to pay something into the city coffers so that we can recoup some of the money that we normally use to rebuild our roads that they're destroying.
So the basis of business license tax being broader, warehousing is definitely something that would be subject to that, that would be worked out precisely as we go forward, depending on council's direction. But there are options like, if the warehouse is a third-party warehouse and it's charging for the warehousing service that it's providing or the distribution services, then that's gross receipts. And that's pretty straightforward. If it's totally a captive entity within some larger business and doesn't have traditional charges, you can structure the ordinance, obviously with city attorney oversight, but we could structure the ordinance to have a cost of operations alternative measure, for example, so that, yes, those businesses are contributing to your tax base in a more direct way.
Okay, thank you.
Karen?
My comments are as such. This is one of those things where I think it's difficult when we have processes or procedures that haven't been updated in almost 40 years, and they run a course that is no longer serving us the correct way. I am not a proponent of additional taxes or measures. I don't like it. I think it's challenging, and I agree that most people don't like it either. But in just looking at this structure, it's evident that none of our personal income taxes have gone down, and in order to keep the city operating properly, it's prudent for us to look at these sources of revenues for us more frequently than 40 years from the date, number one. Number two, I'd like Mark's comments, is that it's challenging for me to come to the realization that we have businesses in town that are so much more impactful than a micro business in your terms, essentially paying almost what seems like the same business tax in some way. It just seems like there's been a lot done by people who have gotten smarter around some of these tax laws, which is, they're very intelligent. To your point, we have point of sale businesses in town that pay that proper tax, but we have a lot of warehouses in town that don't have a point of sale that are very, very impactful to our city and traffic, trucks, and different things that we hear from our constituency all the time. So I do think it's time that we evaluate that. To me, that's the time that we haven't looked at it and the impact that some of these businesses have in our community now are the compelling reasons I think we should study it more. And to Chris's comment and Mr. Barr's comment about not being able to identify those businesses, there's two ways to look at that. Yeah, we could go look at it right now and say, hey, let's try and gather up all these businesses, but it's not going to matter. It's not like we're going to go backwards for money for them. I do like the idea of writing it. I see them as two separate problems. I see our tax structure as needing updating desperately and writing, but I also see the issue of people either not understanding that they have to have a business license or properly sometimes just evading it altogether. But the last thing on that is I think it's concerning, like each time I go into a business in town or somebody's doing business in town, I just make the assumption that they're properly licensed. I think that gives people in the community a degree of certainty or well-being that they've gone through some sort of check before they just open up shop and start doing business in town. So I think that's equally concerning. They're related to each other, but I think that they are two separate issues that we need to address appropriately. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to ask for a verbal motion.
Can I, Mayor Pro Tem? So one of the things we're asking for is, do you prefer the gross sales model or the variable sales model? Because we will further study that. And the second one, once you tell us that, then we'll do some more due diligence on our part to determine if it's even feasible for us to move forward with this. Maybe we can collect some numbers, Councilmember Flores, on what we might be losing. But when you look at the charts, it shows our $1 million now, and then it shows it could go up, to 4.5 million or 5.6. Our recommendation is the variable model. And we think that that's fair across the board, because now our smaller businesses, as you saw on that one slide, they're taking the grunt of all of the money coming in. And our bigger businesses, because of the cap, they're not contributing as much. And I can only assume that back in 1987, that we mostly had small businesses. It might have been before the big boxes came into town.
Correct.
And that's what's held this up for such a long time. We will not move forward with this without coming back to the council with more information and saying, hey, we've done our feasibility check, we think that this is viable, and we will ask you at that point to give us consent to go ahead and move towards the process around July. We'll probably come back before that to actually put it on the ballot. But we'll have more work to do once we know variable model is the one that we're recommending to you, and then we'll look at feasibility.
I know I'm inclined to go with the staff's recommendation on this. Any other council?
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think just a couple questions I would have there may not have to be answered now. Of course, you're going to go back into your studies, but there are businesses who, may need to put two different separate business licenses. How does that work? In terms of the categories, there's, I guess what I'm thinking of right now are like auto dealerships who have, repair shops on site, two separate categories. What does that look like in terms of their business, license tax structure? But to your recommendation, definitely, I think the variable option seems, like the most equitable.
I support the variable model as well with the study of the impact of warehouses or businesses that don't have a point of sale, as we discussed during the presentation.
Mark?
I agree.
Okay. Any other comments? Now I'm going to ask for a verbal motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Lucio, seconded by Councilmember Flores. Please vote electronically.
And that's to approve the recommended action for staff to evaluate issues on a variable tax. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Fred. And the item votes, it passes 4-0 with the mayor absent. Okay, thank you very much. Next item will be item number 13, the declaration of intention to establish Community Facilities Districts 2026-1, The Meadows. Staff report by Kim Sow, Director of Finance, and Bradley Neal from Stradling.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As the city continues to grow and develop, we are bringing forward the intent to establish a new Community Facility District, also known as CFDs, for the Meadows community, along with the intent to issue long-term financing to support the required public improvements. Our bond counsel, Brad Neal from Stradling, Yucca, Carson, and Roth, will present this item. And also want to note that our financial advisor, John White, from Urban Future, is in the audience to represent the city on this project. I would like to welcome Brad to present this item.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, sorry. That's what that red light meant. Okay. I'm here to present on the initiation of the formation of Community Facilities District number 2026-1, parentheses, The Meadows, within the city of Chino. The developer of this subject property is Tri-Point Homes. The location of the subject property is east of West Preserve Loop and north of Pine Avenue, and the next three slides will show specifically where the three improvement areas are within the boundaries of the proposed CFD. The development is anticipated to have at build-out 516 single-family homes. The homes are currently estimated to be priced between $572,000 and $703,000. And with the special taxes, there will be two separate special taxes, Special Tax A and Special Tax B, under the rate and method of apportionment for each of the three improvement areas. And the Special Tax A will finance facilities and debt service with respect to bonds for those facilities for the infrastructure for the project. And the Special Tax B will finance services to be provided by the city within the boundaries of the CFD or for the benefit of the CFD. So this is a map of the first improvement area within the CFD. You can see there it's north of Bickmore Avenue and east of West Preserve Loop. The improvement area number 2 is the north and south parcel on this map, north of Pine Avenue and east of West Preserve Loop. And then improvement area 3 is the middle parcel on that same map. The Special Tax A, which is the facility special tax, ranges from $3,280 to $4,395 per home. And it's allocated based on the square footage of each home. It does not fluctuate from year to year. It's not an ad valorem tax. It's a static tax based on the size of the home. Based on the current estimated sales prices of the homes, the estimated effective tax rate within the CFD is approximately 1.77% to 1.9% of the value of the homes. And the estimated annual aggregate revenue is approximately $1.9 million per year within the CFD. The amount of bonds that will be supported by the Special Tax A, the facility special tax, is approximately $24.6 million. Although more than that is proposed to be authorized because if the current bond rates drop, then it is possible that the estimated special taxes will support a larger amount of bonds and then be able to finance a larger portion of the facilities that will be required to build out the CFD. The term of Special Tax A expires in 2069-70. That's the maximum term that the special tax may be levied for. But if bonds are issued with a maturity that matures ahead of that time, then the special tax will not be levied past the last year of the bonds. This is a list of what is authorized to be, if you go ahead with the formation of the CFD, what would be authorized to be financed through the formation of the CFD and the improvement districts therein. And it includes storm drain improvements, water and sewer facilities, wet utility facilities, street infrastructure improvements, other miscellaneous residential improvements, and then a variety of city diff fees. The Special Tax B is a services special tax. This special tax is not available to pay debt service on bonds issued for facilities and is not available to pay for facilities. This is a special tax that is only available to pay for the services that are provided either within or for the benefit of the CFD. The rates for Special Tax B range from $572 to $702 per home, and that is approximately 0.1% of the projected sales price at current rates. The Special Tax B, because the cost of providing services will fluctuate with inflation, this special tax may be escalated by a consumer price index annually, not to exceed 7% per fiscal year. This special tax is also allocated based on square footage of the homes. And the annual revenue generated from this special tax is approximately $332,000. This one says term of special tax perpetuity, but that just means that there is no statutory or limit placed in the rate method of apportionment to limit when this special tax may be levied, but it will only be levied so long as the services described in the formation documents and in the rate method of apportionment are being provided by the city to the homes within the boundaries of the CFD. This lists the types of services that may be provided based on the rate and method of apportionment and the Belarus Act, as well as the rest of the formation documents that will be coming back to you in 30 to 60 days to present. And that includes, parks, parkways, and open space, flood and storm protection services, operation of storage drainage services, and other public safety services. This shows all the steps that need to be taken in order to form this CFD. This is the first step tonight, the adoption of the 2 resolutions of intention that are being presented to the council for approval. And then the public hearing and election on the formation of the CFD will be held on March 3rd unless it gets delayed for any reason. And then once the public hearing is open and closed and the resolution of formation is adopted and the election is called and held, then the only other step in order to complete the formation of the CFD will be the adoption of the ordinance to levy the special taxes, and then the recordation of the notice of special tax lien on all the property that will give the prospective homeowners and all future homeowners within the boundaries of the CFD notice that they're within the boundaries of the CFD and what their taxes will be as a result. And then once Tri-Point Homes or any future developer develops a significant number of homes within the boundaries of the CFD. Sorry, I thought I heard a question. Then we'll be coming back to City Council with a proposed bond issuance, likely multiple bond issuances within the boundaries of each of the CFDs, as development will be occurring on a rolling, ongoing basis. And then the proceeds of those bonds will be available to pay for facilities to the extent that the developer has fronted the costs or paid for the infrastructure that is required for this development and authorized under the CFD to be financed through the CFD, then the developer may be reimbursed to the extent that there are special taxes or bond proceeds available to reimburse the developer for those facilities. But the developer will not get reimbursed for any amounts beyond what is available from the bond proceeds or special taxes. In other words, there is no money from the general fund or otherwise available from the city to pay for the infrastructure. So the recommendation from staff is the adoption of the 2 resolutions, 2026-06 and 2026-07, which establishes the intent of the city to establish the CFD and to authorize the issuance of a bonded indebtedness within the boundaries of the CFD and the 3 improvement areas therein, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city to effectuate the formation of the CFD. With that, are there any questions on the formation or the initiation of the formation of CFD 2026-1?
I'm going to open up to the audience. Any audience member have any questions regarding this item? Seeing none. Council comments? Chris? Nothing? Mark? Karen? No? Okay, I'm going to look for a verbal motion for this item.
I'll make the second.
Motion by Councilman Lucio, seconded by Councilmember Comstock. Please vote electronically. And the item passes 4 yes with the mayor absent. Okay, moving on to item number 14, ordinance number 2026-001, Chapter 8, 12, fireworks. Staff report by Sylvia Avalos, Director of Community Services, Parks and Recreation, and Lisa Conlin, our Revenue Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. The Community Services, Parks and Recreation, CSPR Commission is charged with oversight of Title 8.12 of the Chino Municipal Code related to the sales and discharge of safe and sane fireworks. On September 11, 2025, the CSPR Commission Fireworks Review Subcommittee, consisting of Chairperson Jerry and Commissioners Avilas and Takeuchi, met with CSPR and finance staff to review the 2025 fireworks season and evaluated the fireworks section of the municipal code. During the 2025 fireworks season, the finance department issued retail permits to 24 nonprofits, and no incidents were reported during the permitted sale period. In addition, it was reported that the fireworks wholesalers complied with the new city's requirement to maintain a central drop-off location within the city from 9 p.m. on July 4th through 12 p.m. on July 5th. This requirement was implemented without incident. On November 19, 2025, the subcommittee held a follow-up meeting and identified the need to amend certain provisions of the municipal code. At the December 22, 2025 CSPR Commission meeting, the following proposed changes were presented and approved for City Council consideration. Under Section 8.12.030, sales of firework retail required, reduce the maximum number of fireworks stands permits from 25 to 24. Continue reducing this number through attrition until the total reaches 20 permits. Establish 20 permits as the permanent maximum number once that level is reached. Section 8.12.060, retail permit prerequisites to issuance. The proposed amendment strengthens the eligibility requirements for fireworks retail permit applicants by stating the revenue received will support programs and services that provide direct and measurable benefits to Chino residents. To ensure uniform application of all requirements, the CSPR Commission will no longer have the authority to grant exceptions to permit holders that don't meet eligibility requirements. The language, unless special circumstances as observed and approved by the CSPR Commission permit, has been removed.
Under Section 8.12.65, fireworks wholesaler business license requirement, we will add a requirement for fireworks wholesalers to obtain a business license. Under Section 8.12.080, temporary fireworks stands, the language will be updated to reinforce existing municipal code title 15.04.180, which requires a building permit for any temporary tent or structure over 120 square feet, including fireworks stands. It will also update the parking requirements to include an accessible route and a designation of one accessible parking space within the required 8 parking spaces. Section 8.12.165 surcharge will revise the surcharge, which previously stated that it would be up to 10%, to a fixed rate of 4.25% as determined by historical cost analysis. No additional charges shall be assessed if the actual surcharge exceeds the fixed rate, nor shall any refunds be issued if the actual surcharge is less than the fixed rate. It will require that booth operators specify that the surcharge is a regulatory fee and not a tax. It would prohibit the surcharge from being represented, advertised, or listed as a tax on any signage, receipts, or documentation, and prohibit charging the surcharge to fireworks purchasers as a tax. The Community Services, Parks and Recreation Fireworks Review Subcommittee determined that fireworks booth operators should continue to reimburse the city for costs related to fireworks sales. including public education and awareness efforts, enforcement activities such as additional personnel time, and post-event cleanup of trash and debris. Based on a historical cost analysis, the subcommittee determined that a fixed reimbursement rate of 4.25% is reasonable.
Staff is requesting that the City Council approves changes to the city's firework ordinance as recommended by the Community Services Parks and Recreation Commission, and approve the introduction of ordinance number 2026-001 to be read by number and title only, waiving further reading of the ordinance, amending Chapter 8.12 of the Chino Municipal Code pertaining to fireworks. This concludes our report. We will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have two requests to speak on this item from the audience. Troy Stevens.
Good evening, council members. My name is Troy Stevens. I'm not here tonight only to represent the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation, but also a husband, a father, and a lifelong member of this community. For 13 years, our foundation has sold fireworks in the city of Chino, openly transparent, and with full knowledge of approval of the commitment that was reviewed and approved to us from the beginning and on day one. It was clearly understood that the funds raised were not being spent locally, but instead would be directed towards research for gene therapy. As many of you may or may not know, my son Gavin was born with a rare genetic condition called LCA. At the time, he was only one of 3,000 people in the world that had this. When Gavin was 1 year old, my wife and I started the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation here in Chino. The mission was to raise money for treatment or to find a cure. Today, we are the only organization in the country that currently raises money for this genetic mutation. That mission has never changed. Every single dollar raised through the fireworks sales goes to Mass Eye and Ear Harvard at Boston University at Harvard, funding research for LCA to hopefully find a cure or treatment one day. When we started this journey over 16 years ago, the gene mutation was not even identified. Families had no answers, doctors had no roadmap, and research had no path forward. Because of the funding generated through the sales of fireworks year after year, we helped change that. This community helped change that. Over the last 13 years, we have donated over $250,000 from fireworks sales. Because of our funding, the gene mutation has now been identified, is actively being studied, and today researchers believe that within the next few years there will actually be treatment or a cure. This is not hypothetical. This is real progress. It's real hope. I also wanted to address process, because process matters, especially in a community like Chino. Given our long-standing relationship with this city, the special exception that was granted to us from the very beginning, 13 years ago, and consent compliance for 13 years, we genuinely believe that we would have been part of the discussion if any changes or enforcement issues were being considered. An email 3 days before a meeting over the Christmas holiday break for me wasn't the best time for this process. We have been and are still welcome to the opportunity to sit down to work together to find a solution. This ordinance has existed from day one. It's not a new ordinance, but the enforcement of it is. Without conversation, it puts us in a position that we feel inconsistent with the partnership that we believe we built over a decade ago with this community and the city. Many of you on this dais and many committee members are not just officials to me. You are people I have known for decades. Some of you I have known for over 30 years. Our relationships have always been built upon trust, communication, and faith. That is why this moment is especially difficult, and why I believe it still deserves thorough discussion and reconsideration. The current ordinance disqualifies us because our funds are not spent within the city of Chino. While we understand the intent behind the language, it does not reflect the original agreement we made with the city, an agreement knowingly approved 13 years ago with full awareness of where the funds would go. We have honored that agreement every single year since day one. Our primary request tonight is that the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation be grandfathered in under the original agreement. We firmly believe the City Council both has the authority and compassion to amend the ordinance to allow that. However, if the City Council determines that grandfathering cannot take place at this time, we respectfully ask for a postponement of the enforcement until the following year. that will allow for active, meaningful conversations between the city, the committee, and our foundation. It would give us the time we need to work together to explore a solution and determine how the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation could realistically accommodate or acclimate to the enforcement of the original ordinance without abruptly slowing down research. My wife and I have been a part of this community for nearly 50 years. Our family roots go back even further. This city has shaped who we are, and the values behind our foundation were born right here in Chino. This is not about fireworks. It's about a promise. It's about keeping a promise. It's about continuing momentum towards a cure. And it's about allowing a Chino-based foundation to keep making a global life-changing impact with fairness, dialogue, and respect. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and for standing with the families that are counting on this work to continue. And if I just got a couple seconds left, I'd just like to say, the community itself is a huge proponent of this. We see the same people every year at our fireworks stand that come strictly because they want to support the foundation and they want to support Gavin and what we're doing globally with this research. I'm open to any questions you have about the foundation, about the processes and where we're at, and keeping the community, apprised of what we're doing. So I'm here for any questions. I'm going to stay till the end of the meeting if any of you would like to talk to me afterwards, but I thank you for your time and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the council for Troy?
Got some.
Any questions? No? From the council? No, nothing?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another request to speak, written request by Stubby Barr.
Good evening again, Council. First of all, before I get into comment, I want to thank the Fireworks Subcommittee who are here and present this evening. This is a difficult, extremely difficult job, and it's very emotional. Fireworks is, a few years ago, we had 300 people show up to object to a commission meeting about fireworks. So nothing that they did was an easy task, and I really want to thank them. I agree with one exception, or actually two exceptions. I agree 100% with the ordinance the way it's presented. I think they did an excellent job. However, I do agree with the previous speaker, the Gavin Foundation, and anything else that we had an agreement with, we should honor. They should be grandfathered in until such time as they choose to back out of the program. It's just the honorable thing to do. Secondly, the one peeve that I have in this ordinance, and I brought this up to the commission, is the word surcharge. If you look on page 373 of your packet, you'll see that the term surcharge is defined as a fee, which is what it is. It meets the legal definition of a fee, a regulatory fee. The term surcharge has a really negative connotation in society today because of the way it was used during the COVID shutdown. And I think that the term used as fee is more commonly understood by the general public. And one last thing that occurred to me while we were discussing the previous issue regarding business license taxes, this could simply be adopted into the business license ordinance, the tax ordinance, as a special license with a special business license fee, which would eliminate the problem that we have with some of the operators, not all of them, telling the people that they have no choice as a tax the city adds on, which is not true, but happens every single year. So that's my comments. Please consider the grandfathering, and please consider changing the wording. Doesn't change the intent in any way. I just think it'll make it more palatable to the general public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stubby. That's all the written requests that we have to speak. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the council on this item? No, seeing none, I'm going to open it up for council comments. Comments?
No comments right now.
Mark?
Just one of the comments that I had early on when we first started discussing it was, my recommendation back then was for us to do away with just even the 4.25% fee, because we've already passed a 1 cent sales tax. Based on that 1 cent sales tax, we generate a lot more money than we normally did from fireworks. And I figured since we were already implementing that on our residents, why continue on with an additional fee when I think we were recouping enough money once we sell these fireworks? That's still a question I have. I think we looked at the numbers and we are breaking even with that. So I like the fact that we just do away with it altogether.
So I'll speak to that. I'm the liaison to the Community Services Commission. We have 3 of the commissioners here tonight, and Neil, Bobby, and Linda. When we had the meeting with the operators, they didn't mind that charge. In fact, because we collect the charge in the sales, it creates like a buffer in sales for them. Like whatever it is we don't spend on services, it goes right back to the booth operators. So there wasn't, we proposed eliminating it to the majority of them, and they honestly didn't want. I mean, I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm just saying it wasn't something, unless I'm incorrect in that. Do you remember that conversation, Linda?
I do remember them telling us that, yeah. But this is the problem I have. And we live in College Park, so we go to the fireworks booth that's located right there, basically on the corner of Edison and Euclid. When my wife goes up there, the people that sell fireworks blatantly say, oh, 10% is going to the city for a tax, don't blame us, it's not on us. And they really paint the city as a bad player in this whole thing, when the reality is, if they want to be transparent, they're the ones that want the tax, because they get a refund at the end when we don't spend that kind of money. But they sit there and they tell everybody that goes up there and buys fireworks that this is all on the city. Now, if they weren't doing that, then maybe I would consider that for us not, let them keep their buffer. But the reality is they make us look bad, and they make it seem like all we want to do is tax people, and that's not the case.
Go ahead.
And the intent of the change, the second part of the language is you cannot represent it as a tax anymore. And year after year in the first meeting that's had with the fireworks booth operators is don't represent that as a tax. But some still do. So there's 2 changes that you'll see in the ordinance that are recommended by the commission. One is to go from 10 down to 4.25 because that's our actual cost, 4.25% or 4%, 4.17 I think it was. The second change is you cannot represent it as a tax. So they can't put a sign up that says city tax 18.75%. And I understand what you're saying about we're collecting an extra 1%, but if it's costing us 4%, that's a council choice. If you want to take that other 3% that we wouldn't collect and say, hey, don't charge it at all, that's the council's call, and then we'll implement that. But the reason we went to the 4.25 is because that is our actual cost as we've gone back over years to look at it.
The other part of this is just everything that's in this report tonight is not something that the commission just made up on their own. Everything in this report, all the recommendations for changes and everything is basically for the changes to the ordinance. Essentially, we've gotten so many complaints from different operators or people throughout the city. So I also want to thank the commission. I know it was hard for them to take a look at this and make these recommendations. This is a hard one. I do like that we dialed back the taxes, Linda, because I even professionally was involved with this. And I think it's fair. I want that tax to be more reflective as to what our actual costs are. And I think we're here. I think it's fair to roll it back. And if it's still too much at one point, we can even entertain it another time, getting rid of it. I mean, if somebody said, hey, the council was in support of getting rid of it tonight, I'm fine with it. I'm also in favor of rolling it back and seeing where we're at. And we can always get rid of it at a later time. To the point of to Gavin's groupies, I don't know how soon you received the notification. I believe that this money should go back to the city of Chino, to programs in the city of Chino. I believe in Gavin's groupies. I know that you guys are at the cancer walk and different things. I know we've had a long-term relationship with your organization, and sir, I can't even imagine how difficult it has been for your family with your son and this whole process. And I am so sorry for that. But I would support if the council was supportive of it, giving you a 1-year extension so you could have time to come up with another plan, since we're only 6 months away from fireworks, and then saying, hey, listen, we're going to end our relationship with you. And that will give you guys some time to find an appropriate fundraiser to replenish those monies. But I do believe that these fireworks booths were really intended for nonprofits, for money that was going to our community. And because Chino is such a great community, and because we care about people like you and your family and your son, I think we're doing the right thing for you at the time. But upon further evaluation of that, I think it's best for us to tighten up our ordinance and to keep these fireworks booths providers contributing back into the city, and not just with you, but other organizations that we're going to take that money outside of our city to do that in the future. So those are my comments.
Any other comments, Chris?
Yeah, a couple of things. Councilperson Comstock, I agree with the 1-year extension. In all fairness, I'm kind of lost in this conversation right now because I wasn't familiar with, number one, the organization, and number two, just the situation. So I would be in favor of a 1-year extension, but to grant, an outright, grandfathering, right, sort of clause, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be in support of that. That's number one. Number two, I forgot my question. Come back to me.
I'd like to speak on the grandfathering issue. Listening to Troy speak, you've got a foundation that made a presentation to our community services group, not last year, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago, 13 years ago. That was 13 years ago when our city allowed the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation to have a fireworks booth. And every single year, our city had an opportunity to go back and to review that to see if it's still good for the community. I think it's good for our community. I think an organization like this that's on the cusp of finding a cure for a genetic disease, I think that's huge. We're talking about a fireworks stand, folks. We're talking about a fundraising effort that has already proven to begin to find the cure for this disease. I say we grandfather them in. I understand the importance of keeping that money in the city, but we have allowed this organization to be in our town for 13 years, and we have had an opportunity to go back and review this every single year for 13 years, and we haven't done it. For us to now just to go back and cut that, or even giving them a 1-year extension, I just think that's not good for us to do that at this point in time. From here forward, I think that we could grandfather that organization in. Is it possible to do that?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I do believe, and maybe the commission subcommittee remembers, we did do a second review of the funds, whether or not the funds were coming in. And at that time, the subcommittee did recommend that we let them continue. So it wasn't just 13 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was maybe 6 years ago. It was reviewed again, and the subcommittee said, okay, we're going to let it continue. And
so, okay, and I appreciate that because they saw the value in it at that time. I don't see where it's any less valuable now to allow them to continue to be grandfathered at this point in time. We had a review. So it was valued then, it is still valued today for this city. It's one fireworks booth. my recommendation is we do grandfather them in. Is it possible to make the amendment on the ordinance?
So California law allows cities to grandfather in business from a new fee rather. What the law says basically is there has to be some rational basis to distinguish that particular business from other businesses. So I'm not sure if it's based on the charity that they're promoting or what the basis would be. If it's all existing uses, that could be some valid criteria. If it's depending on the type of, charity or benefits they're providing, that could be a little more complicated. So I may need to understand a little bit more as to why this business would be distinguished from others.
Well, again, it was reviewed a couple of years ago, like the city manager had mentioned, and we saw the value in it and keeping it at that time. We saw the value when we initially authorized it. We saw it again a few years ago upon review. I say that we continue to allow this group to be grandfathered in
And
for that reason.
Would that opportunity be open to other operators?
Well, I say no at this point because we're restructuring our ordinance, and that's the term grandfather is to allow them to come in, but stop all others. Isn't that correct?
It is, so long as it has some definitive criteria. So that's what I was trying to maybe define a little more in my mind, so I could give you the right
So,
response.
a question. So, I know that originally when your organization was here, it was founded in Chino, and you were residing in the city of Chino, correct?
Correct.
And your son was residing in the city of Chino?
Correct.
Are you still residing in the city of Chino?
Currently, no one in the city of Chino. The foundation, the business is in.
We should probably have them
And
speak.
I have another business in the city of Chino.
So I think that was the thing that I was told, that initially when we looked at it, we said, well, it was benefiting at least a resident from Chino. And that was the reason why we said, okay, well, as long as it benefits somebody in the city of Chino. And I think when he no longer resided in the city of Chino, and it wasn't benefiting anybody in Chino, then I think that was where they said, well, then it no longer applies. But I am in favor of what Karen said. I would give him the year to, obviously, this is kind of late in the game to let him, but to grandfather him in when it's not benefiting anybody in Chino. I think, we have, this was really meant for something like Don Lugo needs new band uniforms and this pays for it.
Sports boosters.
Other boosters, the Explorer program needs something. That's really what it was designed for. But initially, when it was first, and we had a resident here that had a need, then I could say, okay, well, that makes sense, yes, by all means. But when it just the foundation resides here, but nobody else resides here, and the money isn't really benefiting anybody from the city of Chino, I can see where the Community Service Commission says, well, it no longer meets the criteria.
And that, I think that's very helpful. Thank you, council member. In that regard, it may be best to defer this. I don't know if there's some timing sensitivities, we're in January, but to try to establish some criteria in the ordinance for an exemption in light of what I'm hearing.
I think we're all in favor of at least a year extension.
I don't think we need to give them a grandfather clause. I think there's potentially a motion to give them a year extension, not a grandfather. Give this booth a year extension and not grandfather.
Under current permit.
Under the current permit.
My thought is they are grandfathered for the reasons I've expressed. Once again, we looked into this a couple of years ago. Everybody knew at that time what the status of the Stevens family was. Mr. Stevens states that he still has a couple of businesses here in town. The Nexus is still here in our city. And And I believe it would continue to be beneficial for our city to help provide that information to the medical world to be able to cure a genetic disease that they have no cure for now. So that's my thought on it.
Mayor Pro Tem, could I also add some clarification to staff's presentation? When I heard Councilmember Marks mention that, you might want to consider just waiving this fee and not charge it at all. I wanted to make a distinction between this fireworks fee versus the sales tax that the purchaser or the residents are paying. So this fee is a fee that we charge to the vendors, not the residents or the people who buy fireworks. It's analogous or similar to a business license tax. However, as someone mentioned earlier, why don't we put this as part of the business license tax? So if we don't charge the vendor or somebody who does business in the city under the business license tax, we can say that they are exempt from that tax because we are giving them a different agreement to pay for the cost of doing business here. And this is the fee that we're talking about. So if we're waiving it, it's as if they're not paying any business license tax here. And the fee that we are charging, approximately 4%, to the fireworks vendor to recover the cost for our staff providing the service. So it's not a cost, it's not a tax to the purchaser. And that is the reason why we thought that it's being misrepresented by the vendors when they're putting up a big sign saying that this is a city tax. So that's why our recommendation is for the vendors to stop misrepresenting this fee, which is a recovery of our costs, and propose it to the resident as a tax. So this is, so we really can't say that this is a tax that is being charged already by, the sales tax, because it's not. It's two separate fees. One is a fee, one is a tax to the resident, which they're paying already. So this fee is for the vendor. And however they want to pass it on as part of doing business and recovering their costs, we just don't want them to misrepresent it as a tax.
So Kim, I think your comments tonight have been great, especially for the public, and maybe we haven't done a good job on the council of expressing that. There's several events that go on throughout the July 4th. It's not just one day, right? It's the freedom celebration, it's the fireworks booth operations, it's the things that happen in our city, it's the extra police and fire services. And to Mark's point, at one point, there was a police department budget, running between $30,000 to $60,000, sometimes $70,000 annually alone to cover the expenses for those operations. So that surcharge for the public is what we were saying, hey, we really needed to collect this money in order to operate these special events, right, throughout the city. But to Mark's point, hey, we did raise our sales tax. Is that tax still really necessary? And I think by lowering it, it gives us an opportunity to evaluate it moving forward. Mark may be onto something. Maybe we don't need it in the future. So I appreciate what you have said there and regarding the tax. I think we're all clear on the tax issue. Now, maybe we're not. But I go back to, research for cancer and different things. That's, I've known this, Gavin's groupie's family for a long time, and again, I think there was a lot of reasons at the time why we did that for the right reasons. But I also would like to see that money come back to our community in sports boosters and uniforms and different things for people that are going to use it immediately. And I think it's hard. I think it's hard when we start talking about research, but I think the original intention behind our ordinance was for these booths to bring money back to youth programs or churches or different nonprofit organizations that were going to directly benefit our community immediately. I'm not saying there's not a long-term benefit to research and different things, but I think the original intent of that was for it to come back here and see the realization as quickly as possible to our community. And again, I go back to, I would support, because it's late, letting this group have a one-year extension, not a grandfather clause.
And then my other question is, how much is the business license for the booths? How much is that going to be?
So the booths themselves don't pay for a business license. The wholesalers will be paying for a business license, and that'll be based off of the revenue that they bring in, but that's separate from what the actual booth owners pay.
If they take it on consignment, right, so it's based off their sales. So they take the 5% on consignment.
Okay. So we don't have a flat fee for the business license, it's just going to vary?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It sounds like we all have some questions still regarding the tax end of this grandfather issue. I'd like to make a request that we defer the item and get more information and then bring it back to council at a later time.
What more information would the council be interested in having?
Is everybody satisfied with the taxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Sounds like Mark had an issue.
I'd like to be clear, it's not a tax.
Right.
It's being represented as a tax by the booth operators. It's a surcharge that the city has been charging over the past, since fireworks started, to recover our costs as they relate to police, public works, and advertising about fireworks. It's always been set at 10%. So once all the gross sales come in, all the booth operators give a check for 10% of their gross sales to the city. Then we have time then to really calculate what did it truly cost us. We are always refunding a check back to all of the booth operators, and we looked at whether or not 4th of July weekend falls on a weekend or during the week. It's about 4.17%. So we believe that if we collect 4.25%, we will recover our costs for all of those services we're providing. The other part of the ordinance is telling each of the booth operators, you cannot put up a sign that says this is a city tax, because it's not a tax for one, and it's certainly not our tax. It's recovering our costs, and we charge it to the booth operators. The booth operators then in turn turn it around to the people buying the fireworks, which is their right. But we don't want them to call it a city tax because, as Councilmember Lucio says, they're telling the people buying it, well, I'm sorry, but I have to charge you 18.75% as a city tax, which puts the city in a bad light, which isn't true. So there's two parts to this, reducing it from 10% to 4.25%, and telling the booth operators you cannot represent it as a tax to your clients. So hopefully that helps. On the grandfathered part, if one of the council members, the recommendation tonight is that you approve the changes to the ordinance, you can make a modification on your recommendation to either grandfather or provide an extra year, and then the council can vote on that.
So Linda, that's where my question lies, is if these misrepresentations continue, has it been discussed? What are the ramifications for that? What are the repercussions for that? What?
I believe we added.
I can speak on that.
I believe we added a
Yeah.
remedy.
So part of what's in here is because of advertising and things that were happening this last year in sales across fireworks booths across the city. Again, complaint driven. Everything from banners, hey, we pay your taxes, which we, went out and tried to work with people and say, hey, you've got to get that down. It's not the tax, this and that. People saying, hey, just text us your order and we'll deliver it to you via an Uber, right? Just a whole bunch of things, including storage of fireworks. So a lot of what you see here tonight is cleanup on a lot of that language to help us go out and enforce these issues and make it so people can't do some of the things that they've been doing for a long time. So, so that was in addition to what Gavin's groupies came into really taking a hard look at our ordinance that's longstanding and what the fireworks subcommittee had to do in making some of these tough decisions. So that's really it for me.
Any other questions or comments regarding this? Okay, it sounds like we've got 3 possible motions here. We have the staff's recommendation for the motion, then we have staff's recommendation as well as giving Gavin Stevens 1-year extension, and then a possible motion of having them grandfathered in as well. So is there somebody that would like to make a motion regarding staff's recommendation?
I'll make the motion.
For staff's recommendation.
Which, we were doing 3 different motions, right?
Yeah, there were 3
I'll do the
different
staff one.
the original staff recommendation.
If I may, you could do one motion that supports staff's recommendation to adopt the ordinance as well as provide extension to the current permit by the Stevens.
So, I'm sorry, Mark, can you clarify your motion for me?
So I will recommend staff's recommendation plus an additional 1-year extension for Gavin's groupies.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lucio, seconded by Councilmember Flores. Please vote electronically.
And if I could just read the ordinance.
I'm sorry. Yes, please vote.
Thank you. So for the part of the motion that includes adoption of the ordinance, the city council is supporting the adoption of ordinance number 2026-001, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, amending Chapter 8.12 Fireworks of the Chino Municipal Code. And that's being adopted by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Please vote. And the measure passes 3 yes, 1 no, and mayor absent. All right, moving forward to item number 15. Award of general contract, Youth Museum Interior Improvements Project Design, parentheses PF 261. Staff report by Jeff Benson, Parks and Facilities Manager, and Sylvia Avalos, Director of Community Services, Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council. Tonight I will be providing an overview and recommendation for the Youth Museum Interior Improvements Project. The Chino Youth Museum is a city-owned facility that provides hands-on educational cultural experiences to children and their families. The proposed project design includes facility upgrades with a focus on accessibility by addressing items identified in the ADA transition plan, including but not limited to reconfiguring the stage and access ramp, as well as upgrading flooring, refreshing paint, and converting to a LED lighting system. Upon completion of the core design elements, the next phase of the design includes using the completed core design plans to procure exhibit design services to enhance and modernize the existing exhibits, contingent on future approved budgets. City staff requested proposals from several architectural design consultants on the pre-qualified on-call consultants list. After reviewing and vetting several proposals, staff is recommending moving forward with Hamel, Green, and Abrahamson, Inc., or HGA. HGA prepared a detailed proposal for architectural and interior design services to include space planning, code and accessibility analysis, schematic design, construction documentation, and agency review support. Additionally, these plans will include changes to the layout of the exhibits to provide accessible paths of travel. The design cost is $146,698. The 10% contingency is $14,670. This brings the total contract not to exceed amount to $161,368. $100,000 was allocated to this project in the adopted budget. $61,368 will need to be appropriated from general fund reserves to the building management fund account for the total project design cost of $161,368. Staff recommends the City Council award a contract with Hamill, Green, and Abrahamson, Inc. in the amount of $146,698, authorize a 10% contingency of $14,670 for a potential not-to-exceed amount of $161,368. Appropriate $61,368 from general fund reserves and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city. This concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this item? Seeing none, I'd like to open it up for council comments. Chris, Karen?
No, sir.
No? Okay, no comments from the council. I'd like to request a verbal motion and second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the second.
A motion made by Councilman Flores, seconded by Councilmember Comstock. Please vote electronically. And the item passes 4 yes and mayor absent. All right, moving on to item number 16, professional services agreement. Raftelis Financial Consultants Incorporated. Staff report by Sylvia Ramos, contracts and DIF Administrator, and Hajan Lee, Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Tonight, for your consideration, are two professional services agreement with Raftelis Financial Consultants. These agreements will allow the city to complete critical utility rate studies for domestic water, recycled water, sewer, and storm drain services. The purpose of these studies is to ensure that the city's utility rates are fair, up to date, and aligned with current operating costs and legal requirements. This includes establishing a new formal rate structure for recycled water and updating storm drain fees, which have not been reviewed in several years. In 2022, the City Council approved a professional service agreement with Raftelis to conduct a comprehensive utility rate study for water, sewer, and solid waste services. While the solid waste component was completed, the water and sewer components were not finalized due to staff turnover and leadership transitions and remain outstanding. In addition, the original scope did not include recycled water or storm drain rate studies. As a result, staff is proposing two new professional services agreements to complete the remaining utility rate analysis and to incorporate new studies for recycled water and storm drain services. There is no direct fiscal impact to the general fund. The cost for these agreements will require additional appropriations from the Sewer Enterprise Fund in the amount, roughly $52,000 and $153,000 from the Storm Drain Enterprise Funds. The Water Fund has sufficient available fund balance in the budget to cover its portion for the study and does not require an additional appropriation. It should be noted that Raftelis has extensive experience in the public sector for utility rate studies and Proposition 218 compliant cost of service analysis. Because Raftelis completed the city's prior utility rate work, their continued involvement ensures consistency, eliminates the need to recreate financial models and baseline assumptions. Awarding these agreements on a sole source basis avoids unnecessary duplication of services, results in cost savings, and expedites completion of the studies, which are anticipated to be completed by the end of the calendar year. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation to the City Council to approve a professional services agreement to Raftelis Financial Consultants for the domestic water, recycled water, and sewer rate study in the amount of $95,755. This contract requires an appropriation of $52,347.50 to the sewer fund. Additionally, the City Council, if they could move to make a recommendation to approve a second professional services agreement with Raftelis for the storm drain utility rate study in the amount of $153,421, and this also requires an appropriation in the same amount from the storm drain fund. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the audience on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up for council comments. Any council comments? Nothing. I'm going to request a verbal motion.
I'll make the second.
Motion by Councilmember Lucio, seconded by Councilmember Comstock. Please vote electronically. And the item passes 4 yes with the mayor absent. All right, now we move on to mayor and council reports. I have item number 17, Community Support Fund. I'd like to request a Community Support Fund contribution to the Chino Police Officers Foundation in the amount of $500. Looking for a motion on that.
I'll make the
of them, right?
motion.
Yeah, all three of them, correct, Kurt? Yes. I'll second the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Flores, seconded by Councilmember Comstock. Please vote electronically. And the item passes 4 yes with the mayor absent, and I am going to defer my comments and my report. I will provide that to the city clerk to be able to enter it into the record. Councilmember Comstock.
My only comments tonight, Mayor Pro Tem, because we've been off on vacation for so long, is I hope everybody had a happy holiday. I would like to also congratulate Vertical IT Solutions on the Business of the Month. Kenny Kidwood for bringing Kenwood's Tap back down to the preserve. As it's been stated tonight, Ken and I went to high school together at Don Lugo. We were classmates. His first restaurant was in Costa Mesa. So Kenny, I'm sorry you couldn't be here tonight, but thank you for bringing Kenwood's back down to the preserve. It's been a welcome addition to our community. This anniversary will mark the 25th year that Russ Miller has been gone, or 26. My apologies, 26th year that Russ has been gone. And if you can come out and support the run on Saturday, February 7th, we would certainly appreciate it. As Kurt mentioned earlier, when the police department was over here across from City Hall, what we call City Hall South now, we sat in the chief's conference room and started that run. And it was about a committee of about 7 of us, and we were just hoping to break even the first year or two. In fact, we had an old director of Community Services, Parks and Recreation said that they had tried to start a 5K run here and never been able to get one off the ground, that they were worried that we wouldn't be able to sustain it over longer periods of time. And it just took a liking to the community for a really great cause. So I want to thank everybody in this community, including police academies abroad, that have supported it and continue to support the memory and life and legacy of Russ Miller. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Fire Chief, for supporting that run. I mentioned it at your meeting the other night. The fire department comes out and drapes a beautiful American flag over the start, and we are grateful for your ongoing commitment of that, Chief Williams. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Flores.
Yeah, sure. My only comments tonight are, it's my mom's birthday today, so happy birthday, Mother. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm about to go break my diet tonight when I go visit my parents tonight. Have some good old Mexican dishes. Thank you.
Councilmember Lucio.
I'm going to also forego my report. I just hope everybody had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
No report.
City Attorney report.
No report, thank you.
Director's report. Police Chief report.
Just real quick, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for the donation. And then I know Councilmember Comstock, you talked about obviously the legacy of Officer Miller. So we have also different events that are planned for that week internally for our department. Because as you know, every year goes by, there's fewer and fewer members that actually worked with Officer Miller. So keep his name alive. I'm sorry?
How many do we have still that work with them? Maybe just a handful, right?
It's 9, 8, 9, something like that. I'd have to count it, but it's very few. And obviously, the more retirements we have, the fewer there are. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Fire Chief's report.
Sorry, everybody, I do have one real quick thing. I just want to let everybody know that the appellate court did reverse the ruling on the injunction for ambulances, if you're not aware of that. One step closer, EMR still does have one opportunity to appeal to the state Supreme Court, so barring if it gets heard or not, which we think that the opportunity is probably low, but one step closer, and my hope is that we'll be running ambulances by the end of the year. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Chief. The next regular meeting of the City Council will be held on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. Closed session no earlier than 4 p.m. if necessary in these council chambers. This meeting is adjourned.